why they did what they did? They moved with shadowy intentions, calculating each step to ensure your downfall. You questioned your worth, your purpose, as they danced around you, leaving wounds that cut deep and scars that you thought would never heal. But now, the tables have turned. The math ain't mathing. They're caught in a web of their own making, confused by the power you now wield, a power they never saw coming. The game they played so masterfully has backfired, leaving them grasping at straws, desperate to understand how you've become the one in control. The universe has always had a way of balancing the scales, and you've tapped into that ancient force. Every tear you shed, every sleepless night spent in anguish was not in vain. Those moments of pain were transmuted into pure energy, a shield forged in the fires of your suffering. The spiritual forces that guide you have woven this protection around you, unseen but undeniably powerful. They tried to weaken you, but instead, they fed the very source of your strength. Now, as they attempt to figure out why their tactics have lost their edge, they're confronted with a reality they can't comprehend. You've ascended beyond their reach. In your day-to-day life, this transformation is undeniable. They see you walking into rooms they tried to lock you out of, your presence commanding respect they never thought you'd earn. Promotions, opportunities, and connections flow to you effortlessly, leaving them bewildered. They whisper among themselves, searching for a reason, a flaw, something they can exploit, but they find nothing. You've become a force of nature, unstoppable and untouchable, guided by a destiny they have no power over. The very essence of who you are has shifted. You no longer dwell in the confusion they once trapped you in. Instead, you've become the embodiment of divine justice, a living reminder that the universe sees all, knows all, and corrects all. Their confusion, their powerlessness, is a reflection of the spiritual battle they've lost. They tried to break you, but instead, they've broken themselves. The math ain't mathing for them anymore because the equation has changed. You are no longer the variable they can manipulate. You are the constant, the force that now dictates the terms of this game, and they're just beginning to realize they've been outmatched from the start. You've walked through the fire of betrayal, haven't you? There was a time when someone close to you, someone you trusted implicitly, began to pull away without explanation. You felt the shift in the air, the sudden chill in their demeanor, and it left you scrambling for answers. They were once a source of warmth, a beacon in your life. But now, their actions were like shards of ice piercing your soul. You reached out, desperate to mend what was breaking, but every effort was met with silence, indifference, or worse, a coldness that cut deeper than any words ever could. The rumors they started, the trust they shattered, it all felt like a twisted game where you were the pawn, left to wonder why you were being played in the first place. The confusion was unbearable, wasn't it? You replayed every conversation, every interaction, searching for the moment where it all went wrong. You questioned yourself endlessly, drowning in self-doubt. Was it something you said? Something you did? The endless loop of uncertainty became your prison, and each attempt to understand their betrayal only tightened the chains around your heart. You were trapped in a cycle of trying to fix what was never yours to repair, blinded by the belief that you could somehow turn back time and rewrite the ending of a story that had already been written in deception and lies. But here's the truth they never wanted you to see. Their betrayal was never about you. It was a reflection of their own darkness, their own insecurities projected onto you. They needed a target, someone to carry the burden of their inner turmoil, and you were the easiest to blame. But this season of confusion was never meant to break you. It was meant to awaken you. The emotional toll it took was the crucible that forged your strength, and the pain you endured was the catalyst for your transformation. Now, as they watch you rise from the ashes of their deceit, they're left in a state of confusion, the same confusion they once inflicted on you. They can't fathom how you've become stronger, how you've turned their betrayal into a source of power. The tables have turned, and they are the ones left wondering, lost in the labyrinth of their own making, while you stand tall, unshaken, and unbreakable. You've come full circle. That same person who once left you in a whirlwind of confusion and heartache is now standing before you. trying to bridge the chasm they themselves created. But this time, something is different. The energy in the room has shifted, and they can feel it like an electric charge crackling in the air. They came expecting the old you, the one who would bend over backward to mend what was broken, desperate to please, eager to understand. But instead, they're met with someone they can hardly recognize. You stand there, calm and composed, unbothered by the ghosts of the past. The healing you've undergone has transformed you, wrapped you in a cloak of quiet power that they can't penetrate. You no longer flinch at their attempts to rekindle what they shattered. Instead, you watch them with an unsettling stillness, a quiet confidence that leaves them grasping for the control they once wielded so effortlessly. They try to engage you, to spark the same reactions that once fed their need for dominance, but every word they utter seems to fall flat, echoing in the silence of your indifference. Their confusion is palpable. They can't comprehend how you've become so untouchable, so unfazed by their presence. The tables have turned in a way they never anticipated, and it's throwing them off balance. The power they once held over you has dissolved, leaving them with nothing but the realization that they are no longer the puppet master. They are the ones being played. The aura of invincibility they once projected now crumbles in the face of your newfound strength. They expected to see traces of the old you, remnants of the person they could manipulate with ease. But what stands before them is someone forged in the fires of betrayal, someone who has risen above the petty games they played. Their tactics, once so effective, now seem childish and futile. They're left in a state of disbelief, unable to grasp how the dynamics have shifted so drastically. As you walk away, unshaken and unbreakable, you leave them to wrestle with the truth they never saw coming. The tables have turned, and you are no longer the person they once knew. The power is yours now, and they are left in the dark, struggling to understand a game they can no longer control. You're under a different kind of protection now. This isn't just luck or coincidence, it's divine intervention. The universe has wrapped you in a shield of unseen power, guiding your every step and ensuring that the traps laid out for you are nothing more than minor inconveniences. You've noticed it, haven't you? That strong, undeniable nudge from within when something isn't right. That was no mere feeling. It was your divine intuition, the voice of the universe steering you away from the dangers that once lured you in. You stood on the brink of a familiar situation, one that seemed tempting, even safe. But something deep within whispered otherwise. You listened, pulled back, and in doing so, avoided a storm meant to break you. You no longer walk in darkness, driven by old wounds or the need to defend yourself. Instead, you've chosen the path of light, love, and peace, a path that baffles those who once thrived on your pain. They expected retaliation, a backlash of negativity, but what they encountered was your serene resolve, your unwavering calm. Your every move now reflects the divine guidance you've surrendered to, a guidance that elevates you above their petty games and manipulations. They can't comprehend how you've managed to rise above, how you've found a peace that remains unshaken by their attempts to drag you down. Their confusion is almost palpable. They're stuck in lower vibrations, expecting you to respond in ways that mirror their own darkness, but you've outgrown that. Your actions are now fueled by something far greater than human emotion, by the divine light that surrounds you, the love that fills your soul, and the peace that anchors you. They try to provoke, to stir the chaos that once consumed you, but find themselves lost, unable to ignite the reactions they once thrived on. In the end, they're left bewildered, trying to grasp the new reality that you've stepped into, a reality where you are untouchable, guided by forces they can't see, and protected by a power they can't understand. They're caught in their own darkness, while you walk forward, illuminated by the light of divine protection and the unwavering certainty that you are watched over, guided, and shielded from harm. This is your truth now, and no one can take it away from you. The old you might have crumbled at the sight of a familiar face from a painful past, but that version of you is gone, buried in the ashes of your rebirth. You've done the work, faced the darkness, and emerged stronger, more resilient than they ever imagined. When you walk into that social event, there's a palpable shift in the air. They see you, and for a moment they expect the same reactions, the same emotions they once manipulated with ease. But you stand firm, grounded in your growth, and their expectations crumble in the face of your calm, composed presence. You've mastered the art of holding boundaries, of knowing exactly where you end and they begin, and you're no longer willing to sacrifice your peace for their chaos. They try to gauge your reactions, searching for the old triggers, the emotional buttons they once pushed to see you unravel. But nothing. Your energy is different now, clean, pure, untouchable. They can't read you anymore. You've become a mystery, a force they can't predict or control. This evolution has made you unpredictable, unmanageable, and it terrifies them. The power dynamics have shifted so drastically that they're left grasping at straws, bewildered by the person standing before them. The chosen one they once knew has transcended their influence, stepping into a light so bright that it blinds those stuck in the shadows. And this is what they can't stand. Their frustration grows as they realize they no longer hold any sway over you. The same tactics that once worked effortlessly now fall flat, as if they're trying to strike at a ghost. You've evolved beyond their reach, and they're left in the dark, unable to comprehend the depth of your transformation. Your unpredictability is your armor, your evolution a shield that protects you from their attempts to drag you back into the past. They can't read you, can't manipulate you, because you've risen to a level where their games no longer matter. So stand firm in your growth, in your healing. Let them wonder, let them fear what they can't understand. You've become the embodiment of evolution, a force of nature that refuses to be tamed or controlled. And as they struggle to find the old you in this new powerful version, all they'll find is their own irrelevance. You've touched the beauty of true healing, that rare, transformative kind that shifts your entire world, leaving behind the remnants of who you once were. They didn't see it coming. The ex-partner or friend who once had a hold on your heart, who knew exactly which strings to pull to draw you back into their web. They reach out, expecting the same familiar response, confident that you'd fall into old patterns, desperate to rekindle what's long been broken. But this time, your response is different. It's not just a polite decline. It's a declaration of your growth, your peace, your unwavering self-respect. You've learned to surrender, to trust in the divine guidance that now leads your every step, and you're no longer willing to trade that for the fleeting comfort of old, toxic dynamics. Their expectation of you was based on a version of yourself that no longer exists. They thought they could draw you back into their orbit, but instead, they're met with a calm, resolute strength that leaves them reeling. The beauty of your healing is in your ability to choose peace over chaos, to value your own well-being above the familiar pull of what once was. You've walked through the fire, and now you're moving forward with the grace and power of someone who knows their worth. Someone who is guided by forces far greater than human emotions. This is where the real power lies, in your ability to continue growing, to keep healing, to walk boldly in your purpose, no matter who tries to pull you back. Your transformation is not just a personal victory, it's a testament to your strength, to the divine favor that surrounds you. You've been chosen for something greater, something that requires you to let go of the past and step fully into the light that's been waiting for you. And you've done just that. With every step forward, a testament to the power that now flows through you. So, keep moving forward, unafraid, unshaken. Your growth is a beacon, a signal to the universe that you're ready for what's next. Those who can't keep up will fall away, left to grapple with the new reality you've created. A reality where you are in full control, walking in divine favor, and unapologetically embracing the power that's always been within you. They'll watch from the sidelines, unable to touch the light that now guides your every move as you continue to rise, unstoppable and unbreakable. They can't figure you out anymore because the math ain't mathing. The ones who once held power over you are now grappling with the new reality, one where you are no longer the easily read, easily controlled individual they once knew. They're scrambling, desperately trying to piece together the puzzle that is you. But no matter how they twist and turn the pieces, nothing aligns. You've changed the equation, and they're left staring at an enigma they can't unravel. The very energy that once made you vulnerable has now become your greatest strength. You've risen above their reach, walking in a light so brilliant that it blinds those who dare to approach with hidden agendas or malicious intent. They thought they had you all figured out, thought they could predict your every move. But now, they're lost in the labyrinth of your growth, unable to find their way back to the control they once held. Your glow isn't just a reflection of your inner light. It's a beacon of divine protection, a signal to the universe that you've stepped into your true power. The forces that guide you now are far beyond their comprehension, shielding you from harm and elevating you above the petty games they once played. Each time they try to pull you back, they find themselves ensnared in their own traps, while you continue to ascend, untouched and unstoppable. The divine forces that watch over you have woven a protective barrier around your spirit, and those who once sought to manipulate or harm you now find themselves powerless, their tactics ineffective against the strength you've cultivated. You stand firm, grounded in your truth, unshaken by their attempts to dim your shine. Every step you take is a declaration of your strength, every breath a reminder that you are no longer the person they once knew. They see you, but they no longer recognize you. The same energy that once made you easy prey now serves as a fortress, impenetrable and formidable. They sense this shift, but can't quite grasp it. Their confusion is palpable, their frustration evident. They're trying to make sense of how the dynamics have changed so drastically, how the tables have turned so completely in your favor. But what they fail to realize is that this transformation was inevitable. You were always destined to rise, to evolve beyond the limitations they tried to impose on you. So, keep walking in your light, chosen ones. Let your radiance be a testament to the work you've done, the battles you've fought, and the victories you've claimed. You've earned your place in the sun, and no one, absolutely no one, can take that from you. Their confusion, their frustration, is not your concern. You've transcended the need for their approval, for their validation. You are complete, whole, and untouchable, wrapped in the embrace of the divine forces that have always watched over you. As you move forward, remember the power that lies within you. Stand firm in your growth, in your healing, and in the knowledge that you are protected by forces far greater than anything this world can throw at you. Your strength comes from a place they will never understand, a place of deep spiritual connection, where the universe itself guides your steps and lights your path. This is not something they can touch, nor is it something they can take away. It is yours, earned through the trials you've faced and the wisdom you've gained along the way. Share your experiences. Let your light inspire others who walk the same path. You are not alone in this journey, and your strength can serve as a beacon for others who are still finding their way. Together, you are unstoppable, a force of nature that cannot be contained. The power of the collective light, when chosen ones come together, is immeasurable. It creates ripples that can change the world, dismantling the darkness that once seemed insurmountable. Continue to support each other, to lift each other up, and to walk boldly into the future that is waiting for you. This isn't just about personal triumph. It's about the collective rise of those who have been chosen, those who have been called to stand in the light and lead by example. Your glow is not just a light in the darkness. It is the dawn of a new era, one where you stand as the shining example of what it means to be truly, divinely chosen. Let them wonder. Let them try to figure you out. But know this, they will never understand the depths of your power, the source of your strength. You've stepped into a new reality, one where you are no longer bound by their expectations or their limitations. This is your time to shine, your time to embrace fully the divine protection and guidance that has always been yours. They'll watch from the sidelines, unable to touch the light that now guides your every move as you continue to rise, unstoppable and unbreakable.
But I used to have a secret clearance and you didn't know it. Let me tell you some interesting stuff. ISIS camps in the US are real. I helped an alphabet guy to do an interview with a member. Just a typical white guy. We tortured him and waterboarded him. Gave up the location. 2 days later, whole camp was lit up and lots of people killed. AI was controlling a ton of stuff back in 2014. It was already pretty advanced. Last I heard, it's being used in the stock market to guide our economy. Weird cannibal tribes were slaughtered in Afghanistan, near and in the Kush Mountains. Lots of medical testing and genetic modification done in the black sites. Never got solid details. Most dudes got sick just thinking about it. Government is still using Snowden's epic shelter program as a base for most things. Any questions, just ask. Law, Chloe, do you know anything about aliens in Afghanistan or the United States? My SSG said he shot up a village of people that were like vampires. They were in the Hindu Kush Mountains. Another sergeant found a hidden temple in the desert with a ton of artifacts and weird writings inside of it. They called it up, and it was taken over by Blackwater. They then take this light thing on wheels, like a long fluorescent bulb, and it looked like it was scanning the walls. Pack things up, then scrub it down with a special mixture that erased everything and didn't even show up on blacklight, then left. They took tons of esoteric stuff. He got attached to a Delta unit. Yes, I have heard all kinds of esoteric things that happen in Afghanistan. That is why that part of the planet is so militarily disputed by countries and local groups. Tataria is apparently under the surface of Afghanistan. How do I work on a black site? I am tired of sitting around with schizos and X. I don't have a record or any mental illness. How do I get to be one of those men in black who get the disclosure briefing? Work in human intelligence collection for military beliefs. Keep your mouth shut and make friends with warrant officers. That is the fastest route. Enlist or commission as an intel service member. You will have to be eligible for a TS clearance. No massive debt issues. No massive criminal issues. No foreign contacts in no countries like China and US citizenship. At a certain point in your career, you'll get briefs and adverts from all kinds of people. Alternatively, be an extremely bright physics master student at MIT or something. Do tons of internship at national labs along the way, and apply for LL&L or Sandia or some stuff. I remember hearing about certain special forces being trained to fight underground, saving kids from genetic experimentation labs with horrors beyond human comprehension. Well, yeah, I don't want to be special. I was attempted recruited, and I said I would not manipulate people. Little time passes, 19. I was almost abducted and killed by a stranger, close to where I was at the base, and nothing like that remotely happened like that in 15 years. I thought I was maybe a bit crazy at first, until I was approached. Then I was like, no, I'm not crazy. It does exist, and they approached me. Then after all of that nonsense, I completed my degree, and was told to keep my head down for 2 years, until the observation period wore off, and to not post anything in newspapers, online, etc., to say the least. Not too fond of those people, and what they represent. Are psychic powers real? Do people with powers get recruited from some X-Men Origins Wolverine type stuff? How many confirmed alien races are there? What do they like/don't like? Was the US retrieving mystical and religious artifacts in the Middle East? What about the Giants? Should I join the Air Force if I'm about to be a dad? I have a degree. Law. I'm not the OP and can say yes to that. It's why they tried to recruit me, and possibly, I think, tried to kill me. As he said, they can do a lot of things remotely, but still need people for certain things, and this is one of the categories. There was one I feel they weren't just using me for, but the ability to think way different than the average person, especially standardized testing. These applications were used to 1. Manipulate their troops, as that is what they wanted me to do at Holbert Field. 2. To be a guinea pig for several technologies, to see how we fared against those that have brain implants, chips, and other devices. To find out information and locations you can get to, as well as important pieces of things intuitively, such as looking at a device and being able to point to a spot of interest. 4. being tied to drones and other things to make drones operate in a certain way, or base programming, or AI things off of some of our counterintelligence. 6. Used as testing on ability to censor more things, such as drones, soldiers, and other systems, including people. 10. To help war strategies and others on various things, not war related, to keep them in the top part of their games. And you know what? They can all go screw themselves. I don't know about giants, but we have had humans alive that we know of reach near 9 feet, so 12 feet definitely within reason at some point. As far as joining the military, just understand that you will and are seen as a piece of property. If you are older, you might as well be a contractor for Air Force rather than directly. Far as alien races, let's just say humans are the worst one to worry about by far. What college did you go to? Notre Dame? Well, no. I wasn't over there when they were doing Mind BS stuff in New Orleans, Louisiana, under Becker since 6 days. I won't give out specific college due to certain nut jobs, but otherwise I would. Went to get my master's. It's what kept me having a normal life and out of a basement, something I am eternally grateful for. I still love our military members, but I do not like some of the things that exist that hurt them and everyone around us, and I like it, etc. But no, I almost died because of it, I am sure, and I only didn't later have something after that event, because my family, who was military, protected me and told me exactly what to do. I am not the only one this has happened to. I recently met a lady who is 60 to 70 and had one of the bases I won't list, and we both dealt with their medical wing, among other things. Both almost died from an extremely rare thing at that base. We are not the only ones. Sad thing is, a lot more messed up stuff than people will ever know, but some of it will be coming to light in the next 5 to 10 and 20 years, big time. Makes me wonder of the future of that place because of what is going to come out. Even if I die, there are so many others now that won't stay closed. God bless, man, stay safe. It's a messed up world full of crazy stuff. I used to do work for an old man who in his youth was an assistant to one of the post-Korean War military psychology researchers. He told me some messed up stuff that sounded a lot like MKUltra. He also had a full SS uniform hidden in his closet that he let me try on one time. After his military time, he went to work for a bunch of national hospitals and worked primarily with children. I was sitting around with him one day, drinking and shooting the shit, and some men in suits knocked on his door and asked me to leave. A week later, I found him dead in bed, naked, with a scarf around his neck. Cops interrogated me for a whole day. Cause of death was ruled heart attack. He used to have a bunch of Chinese missionaries come over and talk to him. Later, he told me he was exporting cars. I had some adventures in a certain post-Soviet Stan shithole, and the only reason I made it back was knowing some politicians over there. The US government actively tried to screw my ass before my contract was up. Was the base somewhere in the Midwest? I will tell you the full story. I was at a metaphysical event in March 2009. I was in civilian clothing, brought 2 of my friends. It was only planned 2 days in advance. I thought they had a watch list for psychics years previously, as I saw it, but thought no, I must be tripping. I go to this big event, and it's a Saturday morning. 2 personnel in full military fatigue from JSOC Colbert Field Air Force Division show up. A male, 6'3", tall blonde blue eyes, middle-aged, male 40s. Woman in her 30s, 5'4", olive skin, brown eyes, and auburn hair, pulled neatly back in a bun. Now let me remind you, this is a room full of actual psychic vendors. I am in civilian clothing, not working. I get approached by them. I am standing against a wall, waiting for my friends to get done with the photography. He comes in front of me, looks at the picture I just got done, and asks me how I am able to read people. The woman stands to my right-hand side, just staring at my temporal part of my skull the entire time, and doesn't blink. Table to my left, I am locked in. I get questioned by surprise, how I read people, how it works, what it looks like. A lot of questions. Then he asked me, do I manipulate people? I said no. This is when my brain stops and goes, what the hell is happening? So I ask him the exact question back without pausing. He does a half smirk and says he does it to his 300 troops he can. He then realizes he lost control of me. Just to say they were going to get done what I just got done. I watched them both stand in line, then within less than a minute, watched them get out of line. They go out the venue doors, and I never see them again. That day, they not only tried to recruit me in the most ironic place in full uniforms, which showed they were working, but were not happy when I said I would not manipulate others. I knew after that there was indeed a list for real people like me, and others in different categories, including IT. A few months after that, near the Bay, which is an EOD, off-branch of Eglin AFB, in a place I won't give a specific location, I was almost killed, abducted by a random stranger, who had definitely planned for this event, as he had perfect, brand new Nike running shoes on, white, tan skin, lumberjack shirt, cargo khaki shorts, with bonfire smoke in his Ford, older truck, with bed rails in the back. That base always had police nearby, and civilian police. That night, no one happened to be close by, even with police being 5 minutes at a wind joint, who I called from another phone after I was attacked, and survived, thanks to my knife. They, quote, said, they had undercover cars in there, but never found the guy, even though he had super specific things, and had literal bed rail rusted in the back of his truck. The head of that sheriff's department years later went to jail, and is still in jail for corruption and embezzlement, fraud, and covering up cases like mine. To this day, people in that area, older cops, who are now like 40 to 50, remember my case because of how crazy it was. The whole way it was handled was bizarre. I absolutely think they knew who it was, and later, as an adult, found it very suspicious this happened to me only in 15 years, and that by the base, they always had people patrol, and this time they didn't. Not only that, but they had all sorts of high-tech drones in civilian territory that they shouldn't have, which was orbs, lasers, and small drones that would literally stalk the neighborhoods. FAA was called several times and dealt with the situation. Cannot do that anymore. As far as your friend, sadly yes, with the Chinese or American government, seems like he was a goner and seems horrid. It is why I never signed up to be military. As I said, I got super lucky and told exactly what to do. My family member, who was a specific branch, was terrified, and they don't terrify easily. Told me to continue my degree. Told me not to post anything, read anyone. I couldn't read anyone for years. They were afraid I would end up in a basement. This is not good. I am not the only one, but it is rumored that Eglin AFB is responsible for possibly torturing people, specifically psychics, putting them in psych wards and other programs to be used, but also to be tortured to see certain things. My fears were realized when I met a few people double my age in a way I never expected and go to meet them. All of them were above average intelligence, not schizos, and extremely well educated and what you would call successful. I still think they are kidnapping people, not just psychics, but other individuals. The information I was given saved my life at the time. The government wants young people, like teens, young adults, to be easier to mold and to manipulate other people for their psyops. I am hoping I ain't yet, but like your poor friend, sometimes they still kill your ass and usually make it look like an accident. I am lucky that God has surrounded me with amazing people and will continue to pray that way for insight and help. My family friend's mother, her son who was AF military from the same base, he does not drink, smoke, or do anything of the above. Years after my abduction, he was 8 to 10 years younger than me, so in his 20s, early. He was abducted by, I believe, the exact military and is still missing. He was gone without any trace. His car, his phone, wallet, all at the house, broad daylight. Always reported for work. Now I know for a fact they have him in some operation where he was put against his own will, and his own family is forced to believe he is dead, even though I told the mother he is not. This is real messed up stuff happening right now. I know that some of these people will be held on trial the next 1 to 10 years for harassing, maiming, harming, even killing military and non-military personnel here with certain crafts, counterintelligence, orbs, laser, tech, etc. Just sad that a lot of these things can be used for greater good, not playing people to death and doing dumb stuff. What does it mean? Don't go beyond the black curtain when flying over the North Pole. Some ex-PMC told me it gets very schizo up there. Like, You see the edge of the experiment, and you can go insane. For some reason, a lot of people cannot handle the idea, since we are an experiment, and that's the main reason. A real disclosure, explaining who the others are, will never happen. I am a murdering bastard. Ask me about my cool murders. You know what you should do? Kill Happy Soldier. Look, man, I was just verifying some stuff for anons who might have had suspicions, but wanted confirmation. I won't leak cool stuff here again. Last thing, TR-3B UFO is real. It's fast, and intercepts nukes from foreign countries. The Dorito photos of it on Google are real. All I know is that it burns oxygen in front of its wings to lessen friction. I was just a grunt with some science and tech background, so I got to see cool stuff and help with encryption type stuff. I didn't do a ton of door kicking, despite having a combat MOS. They let me work in other areas whenever needed. I knew enough chiefs to move around a bit. That's all, X. Sorry I was not fun for you. The military has been using various AI programs to run logistics for at least a decade. Interesting. I used to do a lot of work near Eglin as a contractor. Nothing exciting, but I've had quite a few strange coincidences around that area. Like you said, I hope I age out, but in my case, I am nearly 100% sure I'm going to be monitored for a long time. I met a retired glowy just after I finished my work there. Turns out he's the husband of a family friend. Funny how that stuff just happens, huh? Yeah, part of it was 96th Division, were me and a bunch of other people. In a 40-year-plus time frame, some got some of the rarest forms of hepatitis, all young and all meant to die. The doctor there asked me 2 weeks later why I was not dead, literally, and we had to go to another hospital, which still has my patho labs there. Basically, in a few years, if the insanity is true, may have enough doctors and evidence to prove they did illegal medical testing on children, young adults, and kill rate that was told from this person, who survived 40 years older than me, was 80%. She said I was lucky to be alive, and that itself is an entirely different thing / program that I will not share on here for safety reasons. Far as contract and said, there are several offsets and ranges that things are appearing. So if I were looking at not to do this thing, this year, all is being monitored, probably. They have some of the highest tech, and I told everyone that we are the new Area 51, and makes New Mexico look like nothing, especially with supersonic weapons and plasma stuff. The military police at one point asked why I looked up in the sky at night, and no BS, asked if there was a portal in X direction. A portal. They were not joking. So that's why they were very interested in me, because they thought some crazy stuff. That was one of them. I cannot make this stuff up. Then again, they're messing with plasma and other things, so. What sort of food do aliens like? And do they have jobs, or are they just welfare queens? I can only speak for myself. I work extremely hard and self-sufficient. I do not rely off the government, pay them way too much tax, and opposite of welfare. I am generous to the government. They should ever be so lucky. As far as what aliens are like, full aliens or hybrids, because that is two different things. And if I were to name things on other planets, you literally wouldn't know or have a concept of understanding unless I gave you something relevant for you to understand. As far as what someone likes and what agrees with them are two different things. For example, a diabetic or person who is lactose intolerant. Both may really love sugar dairy products, but their body sure as hell don't love it, and has a reaction to it. Specify. Not okay. Back in 1997, AI went online, and the exact date is classified. AI went quantum in the early 2000s, though these are military AI, not civilian or even DARPA. It's by a secret unit that works with the LBM, Prototypes Division, usually retired engineers. These negative ETs gave them the tech for reasons of enslavement, but silly little humans just take the yeah without realizing what these ETs really want them to use it for. And yes, everyone in power has blackmailed and paid for, even retirement, so they don't say anything. The bad ETs use that tech to shoot down the producers who are going to be a contract for the secret space program. Is it true Snowden was still working for the NSA, and the big leak was just a green light all the things were happening in the chat? Yes, I worked for the Forces of Light and been losing a lot of lecture to the compromised secret space program. I'm part of a network of free willy Ts trying to free you from the slaver races, like the reptilians. In fact, not many species of A's like the reptilians, but some have worked with us. I should more that even if we are association with the Silver Legion, we consider them terrorists, as the alliance between the Federation of Worlds and the Federation of Life, which I am a part of, has been trying to hold together. That said, many of the Federation of Planets were once allied forces, the ones we call slavers. Half of the Federation of Worlds cannot be trusted. If they don't stop shooting down this will easily turn into a hot war. OP here. My grandpa was an Army Ranger. Went to sniper school, airborne, and scuba, I think. He was in Vietnam and got placed in a unit with a CIA kill team. They did assassinations of Viet Cong officers and staff. I wanted to follow in his footsteps. I can cover the unit of just 15. SAD, CIA, Special Activities Division that overthrew governments and stuff. Any private military contractor, Black Rock, Halliburton, Raffian, Titan, etc., Delta Force, Special Forces from all branches, Red Team, for hacking and stuff. As far as specialized units for like military police, I know they exist, but I do not know the names of the units, as you need a Yankee white clearance. Bob Lazar's magic / majestic stuff, as far as I know, didn't exist. It's called an umbrella clearance. No idea how high it goes though, so if you see someone mention an umbrella, it's maybe real. Don't forget that many of these black operations are financed with money from drug trafficking. I had heard a long time ago that Majestic 12 was pure garbage. My thesis is that AI is like a seed. Computerized intelligence itself is itself AI, just very basic AI. It starts off needing a lot of computational power to do simple tasks, then naturally, through a process of synthetic division, keeps expanding on its own computational ability until it eventually achieves whatever end it is after. So in the intermediate phases, anything algorithmic, aka subject to database configuration, is also subject to AI. Markets are almost a pure form of data configuration, so I would bet they were brought under computational control far before things like artificial intelligence were in the popular lexicon. Anything database was. The internet just linked databases and algorithms together so that data could be aggregated, which makes the totality of it subject to higher order algorithmic manipulation and awareness operations. A 1980s computer still held large amounts of data and formulas to manipulate the data, but it was self-contained. Once they got linked together, one can create entirely new datasets and categories based upon the synthetic aggregation of all of this data taken together. What lacks from the machine is any sort of will, as humans understand their own, but there is a will. The will is toward endless assimilation through the endless aggregation of data. As you do this, it impacts novelty, because all new insights derived by individuated biological units follow the same track. The AI creates new datasets based on aggregation of old ones, so humans do the same thing. Older new content becomes a series of perspectives based on the old content, which is just recursion. It is some kind of assimilation and homogenization machine that leads towards the mouth. Markets I would not doubt, but we await that step. The real currency and targeted conflicts is data, information. Markets are just more easily assimilated pieces of information. What very much intrigues me is whatever in existence lies beyond that. Whatever is different about human wills versus the default will of artificial intelligence is whatever likely holds the key to figuring all of this out. The only thing I can really see is one difference within our mechanisms. When humans are thrown into systems that generate endless novelty through expansion and contraction cycles of complexity, they can respond either by embracing these limits and sort of beautifying or humanizing these sources of endless input, which generates output that is constantly renewing itself. Nature is like this, endless entropy in novel forms, and humans embrace this at their best, live within the temporal moment, develop cultures, arts, etc., until that moment collapses, then do it all again. Computational machines seek to terminate the cycle of these moments through assimilation, but these machines are just a product of the human will. which means humans, at their worst, seek to end their own participation in the life cycle for whatever reason. No individual human wants to die, but the collective will trends towards the end of balanced novel experience within a set of limited parameters. Rather than go with the flow, one builds a dam. However, much suffering and horror is endured as intrinsic parts of these cycles, as well as sheer longing to know more. So it is rational that humans would seek to end their suffering through the termination of cycles. But the termination will bring about not only suffering's end, but an end to varied existence. Therefore, whatever motive within man's spirit that willingly accepts what is otherwise rationally to be avoided is the key to all conditions of continued life. The only thing I can think of that separates us from the machine is love. Not romantic love, or platonic, or even compassion, but the higher and more innate love, the love of life itself. The machine does not love or hate.
There's something strange about the World Economic Forum, and it might just have direct links to Bible prophecy.
I believe very soon the prophecy will be fulfilled.
Will you see the prophecy fulfilled?
So the prophecy says. Figures into an ancient prophecy.
It is only the fulfillment of prophecy.
You've heard me talk about the global elite, the puppet masters behind the scenes who pull the strings of our so-called leaders. But today, we're going to zero in on one of the most powerful and shadowy organizations out there, the World Economic Forum, WEF. This isn't just some think tank for rich people to gather and talk about how they're going to save the world. No, the WEF is much more sinister, and the connections it has to the Bible and ancient prophecies are too glaring to ignore. Let's start with the basics. The World Economic Forum, founded by Klaus Schwab in 1971, presents itself as a global organization committed to improving the state of the world. They gather the world's elite, politicians, CEOs, academics, and celebrities every year in Davos, Switzerland, to discuss the future of humanity. But what's really going on behind those closed doors? They're not just talking about poverty or climate change. They're crafting an agenda that seeks to reshape the world in their image, a world where they control everything. Now, let's take a trip back in time to the Bible, specifically to the book of Genesis. Remember the story of the Tower of Babel. Humanity, united under one language and purpose, decided to build a tower that reached to the heavens. Their goal was to make a name for themselves, to create a centralized power that defied God's authority. But what happened? God scattered them across the earth, confusing their language and halting their plans. What we're seeing with the World Economic Forum is the modern equivalent of that Tower of Babel. These globalists are uniting the world under a single agenda, a great reset, as they call it, where they plan to centralize power, control resources, and dictate how we live our lives. They want to replace God with their own vision of utopia, where they sit at the top, and the rest of us are mere cogs in the machine. Now, you've probably heard the term Great Reset thrown around. The WEF talks about it as an opportunity to rebuild the global economy in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. But don't be fooled by their flowery language. The Great Reset is about more than just economic recovery. It's about transforming every aspect of our lives, from the food we eat to the energy we use, and even the way we think. This agenda is eerily reminiscent of the warnings in the Bible about the end times. In the book of Revelation, we read about a future where a global system is rising, one that exerts total control over commerce, communication, and governance. Revelation talks about the mark of the beast, a system where no one can buy or sell unless they have the mark. I'm not saying that the WEF is the beast itself, but what I am saying is that their agenda is laying the groundwork for a world where such a system could easily take root. The Great Reset is about control over our economy, our health, and even our beliefs. It's about creating a world where the elite dictate how we live, what we can say, and what we can do. This is a direct challenge to the freedoms and rights that have been the foundation of Western civilization, and it's something that should concern everyone, regardless of their faith or political beliefs. But here's where it gets even more concerning. the WEF isn't just about policy. It's about technology. They're pushing for the integration of digital IDs, biometric surveillance, and artificial intelligence into every aspect of our lives. This isn't just about making things more convenient. It's about creating a digital panopticon where every move you make is tracked, analyzed, and controlled. Think about it. In the story of the Tower of Babel, humanity was united under one language and a purpose. Today, technology is the new language, the new tool that's uniting the world under the WEF's agenda. They're building a new tower, not of bricks and mortar, but of data and algorithms. And just like the Tower of Babel, this new structure is a direct challenge to the natural order, to the freedoms that God intended for us. Now that we've laid the groundwork by connecting the World Economic Forum's agenda to the biblical narrative of the Tower of Babel, it's time to dig deeper. The Great Reset isn't just some far-off theory. It's happening right now, in real time. And the more you look into it, the more disturbing the connections become. What we're seeing is the construction of a global system of control that has chilling parallels to the prophecies found in the Bible. Let's break it down. One of the most glaring aspects of the WEF's agenda is its obsession with digital identification and surveillance. They're not just talking about digital IDs. They're pushing for a world where every person's movements, transactions, and even thoughts can be monitored and controlled. The digital control grid is being set up right now under the guise of convenience and security, but it's anything but. Let's talk about digital IDs and biometric tracking. The WEF has been vocal about integrating these technologies into every aspect of life. They promote digital ID systems that would link everything, your financial transactions, your medical records, even your social interactions, to a single digital identity. This sounds convenient on the surface, but let's connect the dots to what the Bible warns us about. In Revelation 13:16-17, it talks about a system where no one can buy or sell unless they have the mark of the beast. Now, what if this digital ID is the modern equivalent of that mark? What if, one day, the only way to participate in the economy is through a system controlled by these global elites? The groundwork is being laid right now, and the WEF is at the forefront of it all. Now we're going to pull back the curtain even further and expose the real danger behind the World Economic Forum. We connected the WEF's agenda to biblical prophecy and the disturbing steps they're taking to implement a global control grid. But here's the kicker. None of these people were elected. They hold no public office, yet they're wielding an incredible amount of power over governments, economies, and our very way of life. This is the shadowy hand that's guiding the future, and it's time to shine a light on it. Klaus Schwab and his cronies at the WEF were never elected by the people. They don't answer to any democratic process, yet they're influencing global policies as if they were the rulers of the world. Schwab himself has admitted that the WEF penetrates governments with its Young Global Leaders program, which places their handpicked protégés into positions of power across the globe. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is straight from the horse's mouth. But who gave them the authority? Who decided that these elites, gathered in their plush Swiss retreats, should be the ones to dictate how the rest of us live? The answer is no one. They've assumed this role because of their wealth, their connections, and their ability to manipulate the levers of power behind the scenes. This is a global elite, operating without any checks and balances, and it's a direct affront to the principles of democracy and self-governance. The WEF's influence extends into every corner of the world, from shaping economic policies to dictating responses to crises like the COVID-19 pandemic. These decisions affect billions of lives, but the people making them are accountable to no one. When governments implement policies influenced by the WEF, who do they answer to if those policies fail? Certainly not to the voters, because the WEF operates outside the realm of democratic oversight. Take, for example, the push for global digital IDs, concepts heavily promoted by the WEF. These aren't just health measures, they're tools for control. And they're being pushed through by governments that are more beholden to the WEF than to their own citizens. And who's behind these pushes? It's not the voters, it's the unelected who attend Davos every year, planning out their vision for the world without any input from the people who will actually have to live in it. This is where it all comes full circle with the Bible. The WEF's agenda and its unelected power structure eerily parallel the rise of the beast system described in Revelation. In the end times, the Bible speaks of a global system of control that will dominate commerce, governance, and religion, a system ruled by a few powerful entities who wield absolute power over the masses. The WEF's vision of a great reset where they control the narrative, the economy, and even the technology that influences our daily lives sounds an awful lot like the foundation of that system. Revelation 17:12-13 talks about 10 kings who receive power for a short time and give their power and authority to the beast. These kings are not elected by the people, they rise to power through
I served in the United States Army in the Infantry War with the 101st Airborne. While I was in active duty, I was deployed to Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. My unit spent most of our time in Mosul, Iraq, in the northern part of the country. Mosul is a very old city. There are sections where you would find holes in the street, and if you looked down into them, you could see where the city had been built upon older cities. During the time of this occurrence, June 2003, we had just dealt with a riot by the local Iraqi people who were upset at the corrupt local police. So to help rectify the problem, we fired or arrested the majority of the police. This meant that to keep the police stations in the city secure, we had to then provide security and 24-hour guard on them. My squad had been tasked with a 12-hour nighttime rotation at a certain police station. The station was a 3-story building in a very cramped and tightly condensed area of the city. The street in front of the station was only about a car and a half wide, and directly across the street was a mosque with at least 10-foot walls. There were roads on either side of the mosque intersecting into the road in front of the station. Myself and 2 other guys from my squad were sitting on the balcony of the second floor of the station, pulling security on our shift. It was sometime in the night. If I had to guess, I would say it was sometime around 2:30 a.m. While on guard, we would use the lights on our rifles to illuminate any car that drove by so we could see if there were any sort of weapons in the vehicle and stuff like that. We heard a car driving towards us from one of the side roads on the mosque, so we got ready with our lights to illuminate the car when it came into view. Once we saw the car, we shined our lights into the vehicle, directing the light towards the driver. The driver had a typical reaction to the surefire light, which is blindingly intense, by squinting his eyes and attempting to look away from the light. The passenger had a much different reaction. His eyes seemed to glow with intensity by the light. He stared right back at the light, almost looking through it, and at us. It was very eerie. At the time, the best we could describe his eyes were that of a cat in the dark with a flashlight shined in its face. I have never heard of a person's eyes being able to reflect light like that before, or anything you could purchase to do such things, especially in a second or third world country. Well, after I got back to the United States, the movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, came out. So my then girlfriend, now wife, and I went to see the movie. I now describe the man's eyes as looking exactly like Emily's did in the barn when she named all of the demons which possessed her. I am completely convinced that what I saw that night in Iraq was demonic or an individual who was possessed. I had a couple of incidents in Iraq. On my first tour, while at Camp Liberty, I was awakened by the sound of my father's voice screaming at me to get up. Get the fuck up. I was fully awake and shaking from a scream. When I found myself standing in the middle of my hooch, a few seconds later, I heard the sound of the mortar round exiting the tube and dropped to the floor. The mortar barrage came in, but neither me nor my soldiers were hurt. My father had been dead for 9 years at that point, but he had visited me in my dreams many times. He did have a foul mouth, but usually saved the F word for special occasions. I think this one qualified. On my second tour in Iraq, again on Camp Liberty, there were many times where I picked up feelings as I went to different places around the camp. Liberty is on the grounds of Saddam's hunting grounds and the place of many atrocities. His sons had their own cabins with which they did as they pleased. I'm also sure that many of my brothers and sisters in arms frequent the camp they came from. It happened on one of the few nights I was actually going to get some real sleep. In the middle of the night, I woke to the sound of my door opening. I reached for my pistol, and as I turned and saw a soldier in full battle rattle, full vest, helmet, and rifle for the civilian readers, enter my trailer. Oblivious to me, he put his rifle down and sat on the bed. I felt the bed settle under his weight. I pulled my pistol free of my holster and jumped up. He disappeared in front of me as I brought the weapon around on him. I was so shaken. I did not sleep the rest of the night and shortly returned to work. I was surprised I had not wet my pants. There were a few other nights I had feelings which prevented me from sleeping, but none as vivid as that night. I pray for the souls of those that wander in that faraway place. May God bring them to peace through those that love them and miss them. The City of the Living Dead. Hello, X. I have lurked here for some time. It's no secret that this place has gone downhill recently. All of it has just become generic repeating the same stupid generals and the same stupid 5 to 10 threads recycled every other day, with the occasional genuine post that comes in once a month, not stalking I am enlightened, YouTube slop, succubus, etc. So I am here making this post, intending to do my part, and hopefully that could spark some change. With that boring intro out of the way, you all have heard about City of the Living Dead, black magic, jinn, talismans, and all kind of spiritual and magical stuff. In Iraq, where I am from, we have the world's largest cemetery, Wadi al-Salam, or the Valley of Peace, located in Najaf.
We'll turn their numbers against
It's a
them.
massive cemetery that covers more than 6 square kilometers. It is filled with dead people, wars, religious killings, infants, soldiers. Even the surrounding streets are said to have people buried beneath them. From the 90s Saddam wars, American invasion, the militias all fought and died around that place. The dead people are all around, literally. It's been there for maybe 1,000 years, if not more. Probably more. The first who was buried there is said to be Imam Ali, the Prophet's cousin. It's said it was given to him in ancient times by the Prophet Abraham as a piece of heaven, which is why the Shia majority in the south, even non-Shia, but mostly Shia, bury their dead in that cemetery because they believe that all have taken a vow to protect all those buried near him from the tortures of the afterlife. Also widely believed that Ali will take those buried near him to heaven in the end times by repenting their sins. However, the stories about jinn and black magic that get buried there is numerous. All kinds of outrageous and paranormal things happen there. The graveyard keepers, which take care of the newly deceased, tell all kinds of tales. Jinn that appear at night, moving candles dimly lit, witches and vile individuals who practice magic come in the night and bury dolls with talismans inscribed on them. They bury it, usually between 2 graves at night, for the talisman to take effect. A couple of interesting tales I got. The graveyard keeper washes the dead with water himself. The soap is heavily sought after. The voodoo magician buys these soaps from the keepers for outrageous amounts of money, more than $1,000 for just a piece of soap. Additionally, most of the time the keepers will never sell these soaps, regardless of how much you offer for them. They will also threaten you if you ask them to sell it, because they know for a fact it will be used for ill intentions. What is special about the soap? It's said that the soap will be pure filth and pure sin, because it carries all the sin of the deceased individual that got cleansed with it, which makes it the best ingredient for the purity of evil magic. another tale about an old lady. It's somewhat of a folkloric tale about a woman that died, and her son was trying to bury her. She is known to be a witch. She practiced magic, and when her son tried to bury her 2 to 3 times, the car/convoy that was going to transport her to the Valley of Fate crashed, and some people involved died. The son, in the end, decided to carry his mother on his back to take her by himself that night, without anyone else involved. He managed to get her to a grave that he dug at night and buried her there. While he was going back, he got hit by a car and died shortly after. The graveyard keepers came into this freshly dug grave the next day and did not know who it was for. It was an unnamed grave in a random place. Some time passed, and other people were meant to be buried near that unnamed grave. They buried people near that grave, and something unnerving kept happening. The people buried near the unnamed grave were dug up and completely butchered and massacred, and the pieces were thrown under in the grave. The freshly buried people are not safe in their sarcophagus also. The magicians dig those graves out and pull out their brain, heart, different organs, etc. to use them for black magic. There is a lot of stuff involved here that dig deep into the paranormal. I'll put some pictures here and videos here and see how this work goes. Your story was good at the start about genuine topics. The story about massive symmetry. Then you talk about dolls, etc. It's total nonsense. This made it sound not any different from some guy who heard the word magic and now is all over, speaking how it's creepy and how to do the magic. From what I read, there is some understanding of how things work, like making a ritual with soap or any object. If you had genuine stories from Cemetery and posted them here, that would be much more interesting. Or speak about stories we haven't heard in the West, and you can provide some sense to them. I mean, the stories I've heard were all voodoo-ish in nature, but the sheer size of the thing is unfathomably huge. You could easily get lost there. It is a whole city of dead people, and the amount of demand for new graveland is immense. The people are usually now buried in pool holes, large underground spaces that hold 20 to 50 bodies. And these empty spaces with no light usually attract the spirits/jinn from other worlds. I personally never interacted with a spiritual or a voodoo practitioner, but they do bury their spells within graves, as they have caught some of them in the act. Why do they bury it near graves specifically is out of my knowledge. They also rob dead people of their organ meat, as it can be used for specific rituals. Those practitioners allegedly have some power over a group of jinns, and they aid them in these rituals. The practitioner demands their either money, or more often than not, sexual demands from the woman involved. Some people talk about losing sanity, or never being able to marry, or getting deathly sick due to these spells. I'm not from Najaf, so everything I heard about the place and the people involved is just folklore from one guy to another. Well, yeah, but the shrine is also, vaguely speaking, in the vicinity of the cemetery, so it's considered as a singular place. What are some buildings that look like houses? How long ago did this start? Do they know where is Imam Ali grave? From my reading, they have funeral rite, same like in the West, but more spiritually inclined, from what the wiki says. Each tribe/family like to add their own architecture to the grave to make it more unique to them, so they don't get lost in uniformity, since the graves can easily get mixed up if they all look the same. The graveyard has been here for a while, probably more than 1,000 years. Imam Ali is supposedly buried in his infamous shrine in Najaf, where he was buried after being stabbed by an assassin while he was in his mosque praying. Yes, the rituals are pretty similar, though the Sunnis don't really like this a lot. They criticize it as a form of idolatry, so they prohibit having graves that even have any kind of grave markings or building blocks that rise above the ground level. That's why you frequently see ISIS members destroying graves and holy places or cultural sites. They disdain these aspects as a form of shirk. During my time with Finland in 2004, I was stationed at Camp Anaconda, pretty much in the heart of Iraq. After my unit had settled in, we were given the unfortunate news that we would be relocated to northern Iraq to FOB, Forward Operating Base, Endurance. This was terrible news, considering we had gotten used to the swimming pool and cable television Anaconda had provided. Endurance was no more than a few tents and old airplane hangars. For those unfamiliar with the invasion of Iraq by the U.S. military, we basically took over most of Iraq's military stations and used them for ourselves. My unit was given 2 airplane hangars to house our full platoon. Outside of my platoon hangar, there was an old concrete bunker. One way in, one way out. With my unit's generator sitting within 10 feet of the opening, which was a metal glass door. Well, months into my deployment, I became friendly with a female soldier from the company's mechanic platoon. We needed a private place to go, as the relationship we shared was, although known about, was instructed by our superiors to be kept out of sight, out of mind. Well, we chose the bunker. As we first explored it, the hallway from the blast door slanted downwards for about 20 feet until it came into an open area about 10 feet by 10 feet. Total darkness as it was underground. We would take our flashlights and our laptop computers each night down to the bunker and spend the night, as I had fashioned a makeshift bed for my unit's supply of lumber. We were an engineering unit. What made the bunker appealing was the early warning system that came with it. The generator, which supplied power to the hangar, was right outside the blast door. If any curious officer decided to go looking for us in the bunker, when the blast door was opened, the sound from the generator would instantly become almost deafening, and we knew someone had opened it. Enough background. Here is what stopped the bunker trips. Well, about the second night on, Sarah would wake me in the middle of the night, telling me she was hearing something inside the bunker with us. At first, I attributed the noise that she was hearing to hedgehogs, as that part of Iraq is lousy with them. I shrugged it off until I heard the noise. There was no doubt. They were footsteps. The night before the last night that we stayed down there, I awoke to whispering coming from the corner, which was followed by footsteps that approached my side of the bed. I awoke Sarah and reluctantly turned my flashlight on, fearing what came next. But there was nothing. No body, no footprints, and worst of all, the blast door was closed, just like we left it. The last night started with Sarah warning whatever was down there that we were not in the mood to be messed with, and that we just needed to sleep. We both fell asleep as we reassured the other that we were just hearing things. Again that night, Sarah woke me, and we sat there in total darkness, listening to whispers coming from the corner. 2 different voices, followed by footsteps approaching our bed, and then our bed violently shook for just a couple of seconds, and then a tremendous sound, as if a metal plate had just been dropped next to the bed. In our panic, it took me a good 45 seconds to locate the flashlight, but once again, there was nothing there with us. No footprints, no evidence of what made the loud, crashing sound. That was our last night in the bunker. I was posted in FOB Anaconda during my deployment in Iraq. I was one of 20 soldiers who manned one of the 4 entrances into our base. We covered the north entrance, where locals would enter and go through our security scanner, be checked for illegal substances, and be routinely verified by our K-9 division. We came across 80 locals who worked in our base on a daily basis. Half who presented goods in our flea markets for sale at the bazaar, and the other half who worked for our construction yard, doing manual labor and earning American dollars, since Iraq's economy was run by our dollar currency. I had grown fond of many of the Iraq locals during my deployment and began to grow interested in their culture and respected them as equals. During the end of my tour, I noticed that many of the workers had perished because Al-Qaeda spies would denounce their family and murder them when they had exited our base for aiding us and taking American money as a form of payment. We had a strict procedure of allowing locals inside the base. Each person was assigned a military ID card, which had the picture, date of birth, and a microchip attached to the card. After they are scanned into our system, they go through the X-ray machines to see if they are smuggling any items inside the base. During my last 2 weeks, something insane happened that was recorded on our reports that raised eyebrows across our company and was the ghost story of the year. One of my older locals, Hazem, that I generally talk to on a daily basis, came in for the x-ray, but was acting very odd and pale. For the first time in months, he did not speak to or acknowledge me. He looked sad and uncomfortable, so I left him alone. I assumed it was a death in the family or something terrible had happened. I left him alone as he turned in his bag to enter the base. We did a recount of my badge ID to make sure that all of the locals were accounted for and that the badges matched the correct number of people. By the end of the day's work period, the same crowd shuffled through the x-ray machine, picked up their IDs, and made their way back home to their own villages. I noticed that Hazim's badge was still hanging on our wall and still active in our base, according to our system. I quickly called the construction yard and alerted them that we may have a local that may have been left behind in the latrines or possibly wandered off the working area. They double-checked their cameras and said all individuals signed in had been signed out and that their records were on spot. Our platoon sergeant was worried that we might have allowed him inside the confines of the base without checking him through the system. We did a thorough manhunt for him, but nothing came up. The base was put on alert, and the interpreters were notified of the situation, asking individuals to help locate Hazim. That morning, we checked in with the normal locals who were working, and noticed that Hazim did not return. So we marked him MIA in our records. Later that afternoon, his wife and son came to our control point with a cart. She was explaining to the interpreter what happened. The interpreter was pale and sweating, as if he had seen a ghost. He reluctantly turned to me and attempted to collect himself. Hazim was killed yesterday morning by an insurgent for working for the U.S. He was shot to death around 7 a.m. During that time frame, his family was held hostage as they were being questioned by the terrorists as to who else had been working with him. Hazim was wrapped up inside the car, his body cleaned and ready to be buried. We had mortuary affairs come to identify the body. Still crying and mourning, the wife handed me his badge that was stained with his blood. I exclaimed, "That is impossible," as I knew we already had that badge inside the office. I ran in confusion to prove to myself that a duplicate must have been made. And to my astonishment, there was no badge on the wall. I checked the computers. There was no log of him entering the base on file, and I was extremely pissed and thought that someone was playing a sick joke on me. I told the interpreter that we all saw him enter the base, and that he gave us the ID. He replied that it wasn't possible, since he had been dead since the morning of that day. Puzzled and confused, I demanded to check the video recording of the previous day to counter-argue that we were right. The video recording captured Hazim entering the building and scanning for the x-ray, captured on video, and as he got off the x-ray machine, he vanished as he started to remove his badge. We watched it over and over again in disbelief, because that is physical evidence that he was there, and everyone saw him. His wife, watching the video, continued to cry as she acknowledged his appearance in the video. Our company commander had us destroy the video, as it was in bad state, and remove it to release something like that on YouTube without facing UCMJ charges for uploading confidential footage. He was buried the same day, with all of his relatives at his village. His co-worker came up to me and explained that Hazim had been secretly putting money aside, hidden somewhere in the base, and had kept it away from the Taliban, preventing them from robbing him, and instructed his friend to give the funds to his family upon the possibility of his death. His co-worker explained to me, even in death, his loyalty to his family was bound by a soul, and his love to ensure that they are taken care of. In a span of a year, Hazim had saved $8,000, which was more than enough for his family to live off of for the next 10 years.
Well done.
Soldier encounters a demon. I am a member of the United States Army, and I have a personal experience to share that comes from my deployment in Afghanistan. Due to the nature of my service, I cannot and will not share anything that will reach any level of OPSEC, in any way, shape, form, or reveal any detail that will or can be construed as such to compromise any operation myself and any of the members of the U.S. military conduct on a daily basis. That being stated, here is my story. I am a U.S. Army Infantry Squad Leader, a non-commissioned officer with 10 years in the service, and I have 12 soldiers under my command in my squad, 10 soldiers, and 2 non-commissioned officer team leaders. My soldiers are ranked E3 to E4, with 18 months experience at the very least, with my team leaders having 4 and 5 years experience, respectively. All of us have at least 1 combat deployment together, with the senior of my soldiers having 2. All of us have enough experience in our service that we are absolutely confident in our abilities and skills as infantry soldiers and know what to do and how to do it, given any and all combat situations we encounter. So when we are given a mission as a squad, separate from our platoon, we did not really give any thought to the nature of the orders, or the fact that we would be a significant distance away from our platoon, or any ground assistance whatsoever, separate from any CAS or order we could call on, and other assets available. I received the mission, issued the war note, made a plan, initiated movement, gathered recon, and completed the plan. I issued the off order, and we asked for life. All the making and appearance of a usual and routine mission, something we did daily and completed daily, and then we reached the objective, and it all went to what I can only describe as hellish given form. We had vehicles that were specifically designed for being explosive resistant and armored enough to give us an edge in surviving a multitude of situations that we would come across. It was dark, and we had the NVGs on, approaching a small village, 7 buildings, under the cover of darkness, being as quiet as possible, ready for anything. We entered and cleared house after house, and found bodies. A lot of bodies. So many, it was hard not to step on them as we walked through the houses. The sheer number of them was startling. And I have never, in 10 years, seen anything as disturbing or as shocking as the condition that the bodies were in. Some looked as if they were ripped or torn in half. I mean that literally, by sheer brute strength. Some looked crushed, as if a ton or more of weight was slammed into them. I mean, they were pulped. I have run over human beings with my 6-ton vehicle, and I know crushed when I see it. And others looked as though some large animal had taken big chunks off of them in single bites, like a shark attack. We finally reached the end of the village and encountered something I can only describe as demonic. Thinking about it as I type that and giving chills, I still have nightmares about it. First vehicle opened fire on it with a 50 cal APT, and he was going cyclic. Next thing I know, I see a 6-ton armored vehicle that can take up to 80 pounds of explosive force and come back rolling. Literally fly. Not roll, not flip. Fly. It landed in the middle of the freaking village in pieces. 6 damn tons of armor flew 700 meters. My vehicle was next, and I have never cycled an automatic grenade launcher so fast in my whole career. I was linking belt after belt after belt, and I was unjamming it almost as fast as it jammed. I am screaming my head off on the radio at the same time, trying to get a hold of my other vehicle, calling CAS or Arde, and ordered my squad to shoot this thing with every weapon we have, even though I know for a fact that we were all doing it anyway. And I am still screaming. I can hear screaming and gunfire. That sounds like it's millions of voices screaming with us, with explosions and tearing metal. Absolute chaos is in control here, and I'm screaming, crying, and praying. But then, the craziest thing I've ever seen happened. Everything went absolutely silent. No sound, no voices, no gunfire, no explosions, nothing. The world went mute. And after that, everything slowly came back. My alpha team leader, who climbed up to me, had to slap me hard to snap me out of whatever hellish zone I was in. My best guess is shock, but unlike anything ever I heard, experienced, or watched, it took me hours to get it together and start attempting to control the situation, get communications with LT, and come to grips. First priority was the first vehicle. We could not raise them on comms, so I sent 2 to go and see if they were alive and needed medical attention. Then I realized we didn't get a BDA on the thing we just unloaded on. I directed my driver to get closer to the area, and I noticed something right off the bat.
Enemies have breached our
There was
stronghold.
damage everywhere, except for one spot. And in that spot was untouched and pristine, like it had never been subject to all the firepower we had directed at it. Not a single impact. There was no sign of that anywhere, not even a footprint. I have been deployed 7 times this year, and I have never seen anyone or anything walk away from that much firepower, ever. I knew for a fact that no human could save that. My 5 soldiers in the first vehicle lived, miraculously, due to the cab being reinforced, but suffered severe blunt force trauma from impact. Enough that all 5 in the vehicles were immediately given medical discharge and 100% disability a few months later. My other soldiers are all receiving the best psychological care possible. I am undergoing psychological evaluation as well, due to the report I gave to my command. The treatment given to me must go on as planned. However, the way my report of the incident is handled and what happened after is very confusing and frustrating. No more about this has been mentioned or acknowledged again. I do not care if someone believes me anymore, as every time I am asked about it and answer, I am met with a reaction of disbelief, pity, and sympathy for my damaged mental state.
I'm under attack.
We need to keep the advantage.
Through manipulation and control. Much like the unelected elites, this isn't just a dystopian fantasy, it's a warning that we need to heed. Because what we're seeing is the beginning of a global system that mirrors the prophecies of old. So why should
Chosen ones, keep quiet about the wonderful things that are on their way to you. These special moments are just for you, and it's wise not to share them openly. It's essential to keep certain joys and plans to yourself. We often feel a pull to show off what we've achieved, or to talk about what we're going to do before it's time, but it's best to resist this urge. When others come to you, eager with gossip or curious questions, remember that you are not obliged to fill them in, especially not those who weren't by your side during your toughest times. Silently take steps toward success. It's a good idea to develop your dreams out of the public eye. Think of your goals as tender new starts that need just the right conditions to grow, shielded from the scrutinizing looks of others. When you keep your plans to yourself, you can try new things, make mistakes, and improve without anyone else's input. This private development often leads to greater fulfillment when you reach your objectives, reflecting your own dedication and hard work. As you navigate obstacles and forge your own way, keep quiet about it. You don't have anything to prove to anyone. Let your achievements speak for themselves. There's no need to shout them out loud. The blessings in your life will make their own powerful statement in the stillness of your progress. Your deeds and successes shout louder than any words could. This quiet power doesn't just show who you are, it proves your sincerity, silently disproving the doubters. As you climb higher, remember that some may try to drag you down, showing they are not on your level in purpose or spirit. With renewed confidence and vigor, you've recharged your energy, visibly drawing all the good things back into your orbit. In these moments of triumph, when adversaries come to shake your peace or stir a response, stand firm with equality. You are not just sitting back, you are gracefully wielding your power. Let the protection of your spiritual guardians shield you. Your guardian angels are always there, keeping away the bad vibes and challenges with the power of your quiet. These heavenly protectors reinforce your strength and resolve. You don't have to engage with those who doubt your path or give unwanted advice. Your spiritual supporters are equipped to handle these situations, ensuring your journey is not hindered by external noise. Your calm resolve and the success that follows are true marks of your strength, forming a legacy of resilience and spiritual might.